definitely, I would remember her. Good, all right, yes. And you saw the agenda, right? So but first, if you want to offer your thoughts on the budget.
Oh, I have some. Oh, not me. I'm kidding. I was like, oh, I have
You have
some.
something to say?
If everyone agrees with what I'm doing,
Got it.
new one, if we're sticking with what I have on the presentation, it's this one.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and then this is different. Oh,
That
this
is the
for ours.
separate one.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
This. This.
There we go.
Oh, two.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you probably know more of the history than I do.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Don't you know?
That was good.
all week, and when the
Talking to me?
Talking to me, I don't know what you're talking about.
like,
Yeah.
just move slower.
Yeah. Well, they have all those forms,
Yeah.
like just laying in the snow right next to the walkway, like where I'm like, that doesn't look safe.
For 6 months.
They're finally doing something in the parking lot.
Because, I keep
We
track
could
of
have had
who
that
says
parking
what.
lot for 4 months.
Weird, I feel like we do that
I
one
know.
all the
I
time.
don't know.
Oh, yeah. Holy cow. Oops.
So I made note to self. I'll let
Oh, well,
you know, Mel. But isn't
I
that
will
fun?
let her know.
And I
Yeah,
was like, how could we possibly?
that's
What did I spill on myself?
crazy.
Yeah, is it Darwin Festival on?
Right,
Oh,
you
yeah.
were at 6:30.
How is it? Is it 6:30 right now?
6:31.
Okay, I am ready. Okay.
He was a naturalist from the British Museum.
Starting good.
His accent was so thick, I could only make out about every.
Ready when you guys are.
Not now. Don't update your computer now, bro.
I didn't, did it on its own.
Okay, good evening. I call to order the meeting of the Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee at 6:32 PM on Thursday, February 12th, 2026. I'd like to remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on HW Cam. Just to let everyone know, the first item of business is a public hearing on the, our Hamilton Wenham Regional School District FY '27 budget. So public hearing is a little bit different than our regular citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to offer comment, to share your thoughts about the budget.
Hi, thank you so much.
Oh, I see, we've got
Sorry,
Julia's joining us.
It took us a second to get her on.
School committee member on Zoom. Hi, Julia. All right, so we're just getting the budget hearing started. So a little bit different than citizens' comments. It is an opportunity for you to share your thoughts, to provide us with your feedback, but it's also an opportunity to ask a question regarding the budget if you have one. And so if that's something that you are interested in and you want to ask a question, we are here to answer.
It updated, so.
All right,
And if I walk
we're going to start
slowly-
with, Vinny is going to give us a little bit of an overview.
You want to put it up?
It's okay, I was trying to talk a bit
I
there.
know, thank you.
Perform a poem or something?
Site.
Julia, can you hear? No.
Oh, hold on, let's just make sure our Zoom is working here.
It's me. Julia, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. I can't hear Dana.
She hasn't said anything
I'm
yet.
not talking. We're just waiting for Vinny
No,
to
waiting for
get
Vinny.
set
He's
up.
just popping his computer on.
Okay.
We're seeing what he's watching currently on Netflix, and
That's not me.
it was good, I watched it.
Okay, thank you guys for joining us tonight. We are here to,
Vinny, I'm going to make sure that Julia can hear you.
of course.
Can you hear
She
Vinny?
Yep,
Okay,
she's good.
sorry.
Yep. So we are here to start our public hearing number 2 for the superintendent's final FY27 budget request. I'm going to try to keep my portion brief because really this time should be allotted to the citizens for any questions they might have. But just to kind of reiterate what Dana said, the public hearing really allows citizens to voice their support, ask their questions, and have dialogue between the school committee and the administration to receive answers about some of their questions. Unlike our normal school committee meeting under the public comment period where there is not dialogue between the school committee, administration, and the citizens. It also works in the reverse. It allows the school committee to gain the knowledge and the concerns of taxpayers and of citizens, and really to take their questions and recommendations into consideration before you guys go to vote on the budget. So it really works both ways, and public hearing is really an important part of the budget process. So just to jump right in and review the numbers briefly, our FY27 final gross budget, this includes both our operating and our debt service, is coming in at just over $51 million. This is an increase of approximately $2.5 million year over year, which represents a gross increase of 5.23%. From there, we remove all of our offsets in revenues, and for FY27, we are actually projecting a decrease in revenues of approximately $283,000. This number would be added into the overall net budget, the net assessment that we turn on to the two communities. For FY27, our net operating and debt service budget is $41.76 million, or an increase of $2.8 million year over year, or 7.25%. Presented to you tonight in front of you right now is our DESI chart of accounts that breaks down our operating portion into the DESI categories. Just to briefly talk about our largest year-over-year changes, salaries are our biggest increases year-over-year between our between the COLA, our stepping increments, our salary scale advancements, and any changes to our longevity. We are seeing an increase year over year of $1.38 million, which is our largest increase that we've seen year over year. In addition, we are seeing large increases in our health insurance premium costs. We are estimating an increase compared to FY26 of approximately $600,000. We have also enhanced our investments in our maintenance and facilities and are requesting an additional $501,000 to take care of our buildings. This has led to a lot of difficult decisions, and one thing we've incorporated is a reduction of 7 staff members over FY26. We are realizing savings budget to budget of approximately $418,000 with these 7 staff members. Some other big savings year over year, we are realizing $212,000 from our natural turnover of staff from FY26 into our FY27 budget. We also have a few retiring staff members where we're realizing another $186,000 savings for FY27. When you factor all these things in and you look at, again, that $2.8 million year-over-year assessment increase, and you apply the new 3-year rolling average of student population, how many students are from Hamilton and how many are from Wenham, we have a new FY27 final budget for Hamilton coming in at $27.3 million, which is an increase of just under $1.7 million year-over-year, or 6.5%. For the town of Wenham, the overall change year over year is an increase of $1.1 million, or roughly 8.54%. That is just a brief overview of the budget, and I will give the time to the community for any comments they would like to make or any questions they have.
Thank you, Vinny. Welcome.
Well, thank you. I'm Bridget O'Donnell at 105 Main Street in Wenham. So I was wondering, I went to that Beverly Civic Center gathering, trying to learn about things. So a question I was wondering if you had an answer to was, if Chapter 70 funding is reformulated, would it impact this school year, or the next school year? Or is that something that's just like a hope? Or is there any,
Want me to answer? Yeah, as you know, the state's working on, they're doing their due diligence, if you will, to investigate Chapter 70 and some of the impacts that are being reported all over the state. And their committee, I think, isn't due to report until June.
right,
So it really wouldn't impact the budget, only because they'll put out a report. There'll be, I would suspect, a year or two of deliberations, or maybe at least a year, because it'll have to go through some process of redeveloping the formula, which is super complex, so it wouldn't happen overnight. So what we're hearing from the superintendent's group is that it'll be a while before any realized, if any, realized changes would occur. We can continue to rely on little bumps from the state supplemental budget, but in places like regional school districts, last year they gave us the supplemental budget on June 28th, I think it was, and you can't spend it then. So it drops, for us, it drops to excess and deficiency. So the state is trying to use the millionaire's tax as to supplement, and if you look at the governor's budget, there are a
Right.
number of line items related to education that are related to that supplemental budget. So I think that's how they're going to try to bridge the gap, but I'm not sure how long it
Okay.
will actually take.
and about the regional transportation funding as well, is that, I know that that's never been fully realized of what was promised?
Yeah, so the governor's budget right now is projected to, I think, 85%, which is
Better.
big, yeah.
Yep.
It was 57%, I think, last year. Not sure of the number yet this year, but it's not been fully realized. And, you know, as people know, the governor's budget is step one. It'll go to the House and go to the Senate. They'll bring their versions of the budget, and then they'll do some cross-collaboration to figure out what the final numbers are. But
Okay.
it's so far, transportation is a little bit higher than it was last year.
Okay, and is there like, I mean, just for the public to know, and is there like a message that, you know, that we can share with other people about how to advocate for these things with our reps? You know, like a message that, you know, while we're going through this, and they obviously heard how many school districts are having difficulties across the state. If there was a way that we had a unified message from the school districts, I know like the MTA has some messaging, but I wonder if it comes from school committees, or if that's just citizens' jobs to be aware. And just, I thought it'd be nice to like let other people know, because that was something I was not educated about, just starting to learn about it. So I think it'd be nice to let other people know if that's something we're trying to figure out, just, you know, trying to squeak out a gym divider, you know, if there was something we could do in the future, I think hopefully a lot of people would participate in supporting that. Thank you.
So I can answer a little bit about that.
Okay.
I know you're all so ready not to have an answer, but so a little bit, so the committee hasn't voted on the budget yet, so we can't sort of say too much right now, but what I want to let you know is just below the budget agenda item, there is an item regarding communication. Okay. So just let you know, that is the immediately following, because it is going to be really critically important once we have voted upon an approved budget, is going to be critically important that citizens do have some talking points to understand what this budget provides, why a budget was created this way. And so please know, yes, we're thinking about that, and those are, and that that's really helpful to know that people want to be able to accurately communicate what the budget is providing. And yeah. Does anybody else have anything else to add on that?
I would just add that you mentioned the MTA is, you know, creating a way for lots of people to sign this fiscal crisis letter that goes to the governor. If you search MTA fiscal crisis, they've invited anybody in a community to sign it. So that's a way to kind of add your name to a list
Okay.
of names in support of funding these programs better.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. And that's for everybody.
Yep. Yep.
Wasn't, Eric, didn't you talk about it in one of your weekly communiques too. So if you're not, you should make sure that you're subscribed to Superintendent Tracy's, because he sent that out.
She was with us last week at the thing that Hannah Bowen did. Can I add one more thing to that? So you asked a good question about citizenry, and I think the hard part is helping your average citizen understand the realities of the budget and how it works in relation to even how the towns work. Part of it is, as we put things out, we try to educate people, even when you're looking at Chapter 70 and just saying, Chapter 70 has not changed for our district over a 15-year period more than 1% or 2%. Right now, we're at 10% of our total budget in Chapter 78. Our budget continues to go up 6, 7, 8% over time, but that number never rises. On the other side, the towns are wrestling with unrestricted government aid, which is called, in a slang term, UGA. It's part of the realities of why the towns are having difficulty responding to the needs of the school districts, because their unrestricted government aid has not changed. The number 1.3 billion was the number in 2007. That number has not changed since then by more than 1% or 2% over that time period. So you're getting it from multiple sides when you start to look at the aid and where it sits and where it makes the most impact. And towns are scrambling to try to do the same thing schools are. So when you get 2 towns small that are doing that, it's really incumbent on the citizenry to understand the bigger problem. And that's part of the town meeting process, but part of, I think, the torch that we all hold in the next 8 weeks as we move towards town meeting.
Hi, Katie O'Brien, 114 Forest Street. So I have 2 questions. What will happen if the school budget is not passed at town meeting? And then if the budget is passed, what will happen if the override is not passed?
Good question.
Start, you want to start?
I can do it.
Okay.
You want to do it?
It's loaded.
Yeah, it's a loaded question there, because there's a lot of scenarios. So we don't know 100%. The warrants haven't been set yet, so we're not sure how the budget itself will be presented. We have been in conversation with both towns, and they both seem to be splitting, which is what they've done in the past, saying, here's what fits under the levy, the part of the school budget that fits under the levy, and here's the piece that's the override. And those numbers will be different depending on how much, quote, fits under the levy. When you go to town meeting and usually you vote for the town budget, the school budget in one that's under the levy. That's one vote. And then anything outside of the levy is the override amount. That would be a second vote. That second vote, well, actually all those votes have to pass in both communities. If an override vote doesn't pass in one community and passes in the other, it fails. The school committee has, by law, 30 days to determine what to do next. So they have to come back together and decide, do we just accept the amount under the levy? Do we go back to the towns in another special town meeting with an amount of money less than? Or do we go back and say, no, we really need this and we're going to come with the same number? So there's a lot of options there. And there's a lot of scenarios, because as people may or may not know, even though you vote for an override at town meeting, you still have to go to the ballot and vote. So even though it passes in one place and fails, and there's so many votes that need to occur, that's why it becomes a loaded question, because you're now trying to map out all these scenarios that may or may not be true. But it is something complex that I think people really need to get to understand. Does that help?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Jen Caulfield, 25 Juniper Street in Wenham. Do we know the number of the overrides for Hamilton and Wenham at this point, meaning numbers from the towns? Excuse me.
The last number they published was from our quintuple board meeting, and at that time, it was just under 1.7 million from their end. For Hamilton, sorry if I said something different. Which that would equate to about a $2.3 million reduction from the school district.
So
to
what would that
account-
mean for Wenham? For their override?
How much would they need for their override? Just under $500,000 was the last number they told us.
I know you can't probably answer this, but do you believe that's going to come down?
I believe Hamilton, a little bit, I'm not sure about Wenham's.
Okay. Point of history for anybody who hasn't lived here. The largest override that has ever passed in the town of Hamilton was $1.28 million. And that was a heavy lift. I've lived here for 30 years. I've served on those political action committees, all of the overrides. It is not tenable to pass a 1.6 or $2 million override in the town of Hamilton. I just think it's irresponsible to try and go for that at this point. Thanks.
Thank you.
Can I
Yep.
just say one thing? I think it's important for people to know that nobody's budget is final. The towns don't finalize their numbers and their warrant until the end of February, early March, and that's when we really hone in on, here are the exact numbers. So there will be some movement in numbers, because sometimes we're waiting for an insurance figure, sometimes they're waiting for a payment from, a number for their insurance company or their health insurance, I mean. So those are all things that will impact along the way. It might be less, it might be a little bit less, but it is, and it depends on what they move under the levy and what they're willing to move. We've had conversations to try to say to the towns, the schools, right now are outside the levy. Would the towns keep some of their asks, if you will, within the override as well? So that's also helpful, because it moves a little more of the school side money back under the levy. So there's good conversations going on. I have to say the 5 boards have come together more than we usually do to try to work through some of the process questions on that. So we'll finalize numbers. It will unfortunately be after break when we actually can say this is what it's going to be, because the warrant book will be finalized at the select board meetings.
Okay. Anybody else want to provide us with any budget questions, comments? Okay. All right. Everybody good? All right. At this point, we'll close the public hearing portion of the meeting. We are it's 6:53. So we normally start the meeting at 7, but just so everyone knows, the times on the agenda are always estimates. But I hope, I'll just look to the committee without objection. I'd like to skip over the citizens' comments and do that at 7 o'clock. Just because we do have people that like to offer citizens' comments, and they have come to expect that happens at 7 o'clock. Okay. I didn't hand it out. Would someone be willing to read School Committee Protocol number 10, which, without me having printed it out?
Sure.
I printed this one out for you.
Oh, for the
You want
mission
it?
statement.
Sure, I can do number 10.
Kristen, thank you.
It's loading, hang on. Fortunately, I can't scroll down. Here we go.
Oh, it's up there.
Okay. Oh, great. Members will refer constituent concerns and complaints, including issues relating to district personnel, to the appropriate person within the district chain of communication.
Thank you. Next up, we have a portion of our school committee mission statement. Amy.
The Hamilton-Wenham Regional School District School Committee's mission is to ensure our schools create graduates with a passion for lifelong learning, together with the critical skills needed to maximize their potential. The Hamilton-Wenham Regional School Committee will lead and inspire a district that attracts and retains high-quality educators by acknowledging and respecting their expertise and professionalism.
Thank you. All right, I know, it's very quiet. Next up is the superintendent report. To you, Eric.
Sure. Thank you. Just a couple of things. I did talk about a couple last week. I was at...
For little.
Oh, sorry. Well, actually, let me take the share off, because you're not going to be able to read it anyway.
Okay.
Last week I went to, I was part of a panel of local educators and people within the communities of Beverly and Hamilton, Wenham, to talk about the budget, school budget stuff related to Chapter 70, unrestricted government aid, all the things we started talking about a little earlier. Representative Hannah Bowen hosted. We had a number of state reps in the room with us, a number of people from the press, and had a good conversation about some of the things that we're all working on. People were on the panel that were representatives of local PACs, CPACs, which are the special ed parent groups, and we had our own union president, the Beverly Union president, just talking together as one about some of the issues that we're facing, and gave us a good opportunity to give feedback to several state reps and a person who represented the Senator Lovely's office as well. So it's really a good opportunity for us to get out, get information out, get them to hear kind of from the ground what's going on. We had a good conversation with everybody in the room. Started out as a panel and broke into small group discussions, so it was, I think it was fruitful for everybody. And I think it's one of the things that we should probably look at doing in our own community, just within Hamilton and Wenham. This week, if I was only able to get to 2 out of the 3 this week, but the kindness concerts at the elementary schools, always amazing. I want to thank our music staff, Ella Martin, Kate Hayashi, who did a wonderful job preparing the kids. The interesting thing we dealt with was everybody was worried if I was going to call a 2-hour delay on the half day, which wasn't feasible, but the concerts went off without a hitch. Parents were able to get there, and I think everybody I talked to was like, just loved it. So it's a great way for our community to get into our schools and see some of the things the kids are doing. Also, in talking to some of the high school and middle school kids, they reminded me that course selections will be beginning right after vacation for next year. Fast, I was kind of blown away. I got caught off guard. As many years as I've been a principal, I forgot that was the timeline. But the middle school has already worked with 8th graders to help them to understand what the process is. They do it all electronically, and then what the course selections are. Teachers will do course recommendations over the next few weeks, and then right after vacation, I think starting on the 26th, kids will start to go into the portal and make their selections. So kind of a fun thing. And I think the one thing I do want to mention that people need to pay attention to, and I will send this to the committee members, the statewide graduation standards have been ramped up. They're really moving forward at a fairly quick pace, but as you know, I'm on I work as a subcommittee member of the Mass Legislative Committee, working with the Graduation Council, and we've really decided to push back on some of the issues related to the graduation standards, and I think part of it has to do with some of the logistics. It generally will come down to money at some point, because if you're going to add courses that are required, we got to be able to pay for them, we got to fit them on a budget. So we're trying to help the state to remind the state that we're all looking at some level of deficit this year. Almost every surrounding community is looking at some level of deficit, and I think it's important to keep that in mind. We also want to make sure that the graduation requirements, as they come out and get released from the state, are open and available to all of our kids, specifically kids with disabilities who tend to get kind of left out when these lofty goals are set. And it also really gives us an opportunity to say, okay, what kind of outlook or assessment would the state be leaning into to say kids are, quote, meeting the graduation requirements. I think I've said this before. Many of the schools around this area have worked for years with NEASC in their accreditation process, the high schools, working on developing what was graduation standards, portrait of the graduate, and in our case, portrait of the learner. A lot of the schools around here have done that same thing, and now we're concerned that the graduation requirements that come out from the state level will push all of that work kind of in a different direction, and we really want to be able to recognize the work that our kids and our staff members do already related to that. So I will send out the paper from MASS to the group. I'll post it in my weekly so people can see it, but I think it's important for people to be aware that there is a state-level push for graduation standards. And we're not against having the graduation standards. I don't think any superintendent is. It's just a matter of making sure that they're tenable for districts and manageable for kids and families. There are a lot of things in there, like every kid has to sign up for FAFSA. Well, that's not realistic because some families know that they won't qualify, so why bother? But those are some things that we're working within there as well. The one thing I want to mention about the governor's FY27 budget that was released, as people know, we are a minimum aid district, and the governor's current budget that was released, it only gives us, again, minimum aid, nothing more. We are pushing for, she's currently got a $75 per student aid number in there in her budget. We're looking for 150 or more. We ended up getting that number last year in the supplemental budget, but as I said, it was too late. So the money basically falls for us to E&D. It's not usable. So just keep your eyes open. There is a huge budget impact this year. As I think I said earlier in maybe last meeting or the meeting before, 15,000 students are no longer in the state of Massachusetts. That will impact the finances and the resources available for schools. We are one of a small number of districts that have seen increases. We had a 39 student increase. It doesn't sound huge, but when you're looking at 1,700 kids, that's a big increase for us. A lot of the bigger city schools have lost a lot of kids. Talking to the superintendent in Lynn the other day, they lost over 400 kids and have a $10 million deficit. So it's going to be interesting because when your state aid is based on the number of students you have at the time, a year out. So next year, this will cause a problem for several of the schools in our area, including, people that are close by. So just keep our eyes open, and I think it's important, again, to have those budget conversations to help the communities understand the impact of what's happening at the State House. That is all.
Thank you. People have questions? Do we still have Julia?
Yep. Yep, I just
can't see
moved her
her,
over.
but yep. People have questions for Superintendent?
I don't think so.
I just had a quick question. Even though on the graduation requirement, even though the state has adopted sort of a faster timeline than we had anticipated, this is not impacting students who are graduating in 26, correct?
Correct.
I just want to make sure.
No, you are correct.
Students and parents of students graduating in 26 they're not going to get, that nothing is going to get changed for them.
No, earlier in the year, we approved the graduation
Yep.
requirements that impact 26, so we're all set. We actually just got approved this week for that, so we're good for 26. I think you'll start to see it in 28 and 29.
Yeah. Oh, excellent. All right. Anybody else have anything?
Nope.
Okay. So it is 7:03. So I don't know if we have any citizens on Zoom, Eric?
Oh, that's why I'm looking.
Okay. So this is the opportunity now for citizens' comments. So any citizen who is wishing to speak before the committee can come and offer a comment. I'm going to just, before I give my whole spiel, is anybody here interested in giving a citizen's comment? Okay. Do we have anyone on, oh, we're waiting to get our visual on Zoom here.
No one on Zoom.
And there's no one on Zoom?
Clear, yep. We are clear.
Excellent. So we always do like to hear from citizens, but it doesn't look like there's anyone this evening. So at this point, we'll close citizens' comments at 7:04 and move back down to the consent agenda. So the consent agenda is typically items that we don't anticipate would have discussion or debate, but certainly they are all things that if any member of the committee has any item on the consent agenda that they would like to discuss, we can do that. Does anyone have anything that they'd like to hold from the consent agenda?
No.
All right. Jen, would you like to do our secretary honors? It's hard to do on Zoom. Julia's on Zoom.
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah, no problem. I move that we accept the consent agenda as written.
Second.
Second by Kristen. Kristen Noon, but because we have a remote member, we'll vote, all votes will be roll call votes. Kristen?
Yes.
Dana's a yes. Amy?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
And that is unanimous of the 5 members present, and the motion passes.
Thanks to the Ed Fund and New England Biolab, some awesome donations there.
Those were some great donations, and look like some exciting field trip, an exciting field trip. Right. Thank you for that. All right, next up,
Curtis White.
we have a State of the Buildings report, and I think Curtis Whiteman is going to give us some information on that.
Good evening, members of the school committee, Mr. Tracy, Mr. Leone. Every year, the facilities department puts together a state of our facilities. So it's a sort of a lengthy living document from year to year. We update status on the buildings. I don't think it's a big surprise that the theme is just aging structures, aging buildings, insufficient for our needs. But we were busy. We were busy in the last year. Notably, one of the bigger projects that we completed, the athletic field complex, which I'm happy to report, last night we received our certificate of compliance from the Hamilton Conservation Committee. So it's been a long uphill to get that done. We're certainly working on some items that have continued to require maintenance, but we're shifting into that mode, which is nice. It's a good place to be. The high school, still talking about things there. My first year here, we had a major failure of the hot water system. And so quite an extensive battle on that front, bringing in temporary boilers and getting the new ones in. I'm happy to report we're on the punch list there. Really just minor issues at this point that pop up to be expected of a project of that magnitude. But we've had warm classrooms, maybe too warm in some areas, which is great. It's a good place to be this time of year, especially with an especially cold winter. Other highlights. So, on the front of accessibility, we do have a lot of work to do here. Over at Winthrop, we had a ramp that was insufficient. It was too much of an angle, really wasn't great. We were able to replace it with one that was there, which is a lot safer. Last year, we actually had a student get injured on the one that was there prior. And we had done some repairs on some of the ADA ramps on the new bleachers. Believe it or not, at our first home game, we snapped off one of the ADA railings. And we were able to get the parts quickly from our vendors and get that repaired. On the mechanical front, again, I talked about the boilers. That was quite a project. One of the other highlights that I'd like to discuss is with working with the town energy manager. We talked about this at our last meeting. We accepted this grant. Is through the Mass DEP, we have the grant that's coming our way for the rooftop units. So we'll have that library, we'll have that cooling space. That all started last year. That's been about an 8-month project to get us to this point. And finally, one thing that I've been working on the back end using the software that we have is our ability to put a PM plan in place. So what's been really nice about this is that through our Asset Essentials software, we're able to look at each piece of equipment and now track the maintenance on it. So every 6 months, for example, we have the recurring maintenance comes up on our univents. Our water fountains, that's the filters, that's what's going to queue us up for that. We've also put all of our inspections that are required in there. So it's a very visible thing, the work orders get generated, and it's a good reminder for the team to jump on these things. On the safety and security front, this was a big goal of ours for the district. We replaced 104 smoke detectors over at Cutler. That was going to happen whether the new school went through or not. They were expired. It was something that we had to do. We put in 8 cameras on the new amenities building and 1 over at Winthrop. Again, we wanted to be able to capture the spaces and protect them as we were, new areas. We want to make sure that they're safe. We had an issue with signals coming out of the firebox at the middle school and high school. So when I first took this job, I think the first week I was here, we had a popped sprinkler head. We could not find it. The worst part was that the signal never went out to the fire department, so they didn't know. The only reason that we found out is because the flasher outside the building was going off. Police caught it, they called. Ended up being in the tunnel underneath where the language office is. And it was actually best case scenario because there was actually a 12-inch pipe there that kept it from leaking out and going into the boiler room. But we worked with our fire alarm vendor. We put in an antenna. So now anything that happens at the high school, middle school, that signal goes right out, goes right to the fire department. So that was a big win there. On our challenge course, so we did go through an amount of extensive repairs that needed to be completed. Those have been done. We had security alarm systems that were repaired, including at this building here. The plan is to put that into starting over vacation. So when we come back, hopefully after school committee meetings, we're not setting it off. We shouldn't. We'll have processes in place for that. Cutler's alarm is ready to rock and roll, and we still have some work to do over at Winthrop. So right now, there currently is no system installed there. As part of next year's budget request is the money to put in a very simple system that will at least allow us to arm the building, keep it safe. On the roof and structural integrity stuff, so we obviously are entered into the ARP program for the high school roof. We'll be talking about that a little bit later tonight. Right now, long and the short of that is that the next thing that comes up we have to discuss is at the April 11th vote. We'll talk about the vote language tonight. Repairs were made to the middle school roof awning. Believe it or not, I know that's our newest school, but yes, it does require maintenance just like the rest of them. The awning was drooping, and we had actually marked it on the wall with some chalk. And over the past month, the couple months that had gone by, I noticed that the marking had actually disappeared because I thought I was losing my mind one day. Anyway, we had that come in, that's been replaced. On the same time, there were some roof leaks that were actually causing that. We were able to repair that roof as well. 72 windows were replaced over last summer at the middle school complex. That's pretty much all the windows there. We think there might be a couple remaining on the end towards the basketball court that we've got to address. And we replaced some locker room doors at on the high school. A couple of things that aren't in this report that I'd be remiss in not mentioning is we did 2 abatements over the summer. We did one over at Cutler. We removed 1,400 square feet of asbestos-containing material going out to the modular wing. We replaced it with an epoxy poured floor. And we removed 1,200 feet from one of the high school classrooms and replaced it with an LXT tile. The beauty of that was the type of material that is used in new schools does not require waxing. So it very simple to clean, very good on maintenance. So it's something that I'm hoping lasts for a long time. All right, so looking forward, so this year we have a number of areas that we're looking at. This is what I'm focusing on right now, obviously with the direction of Vinny and Eric as things come up. First thing is looking for grants, right? So we are engaged with the MSBA core program right now. I should back that up. We're submitting a statement of interest for the 3 elementary schools, which we'll talk about at a future school committee meeting. But we are going through the groundwork now of getting those applications ready for approval by the committee. There's a school water improvement grant. It's called SWIG. It gives up to $10,000 for improvements for water testing, water fixtures. That is a grant that I've jumped through the first hurdle of, and now it's the process of filling out the paperwork. So we'll be pursuing that. We're going to continue to work with the MSBA for the high school roof, and I do have a meeting on some energy management grants coming up during vacation over at Cutler. So we're going to look to do some work at some of the fixtures there that are dated. Again, we weren't at the time when we were moving forward with a new school, we weren't going to look at replacing those fixtures, but we're going to take a closer look at that now. From a safety standpoint, we're going to continue to monitor our HERA, our asbestos in the schools. That's an every 6-month inspection. Our 3-year report is due last month. Our vendor is working on that. They'll have it in hand for us. Every year we tend to do an abatement or 2. We're going to continue on that pace to continue to remove it from the schools. The indoor air quality report. So this is something, when I first joined the school district, there were 2 big things that came out of the committee. One was water testing, and that was from Trent. The other was indoor air quality from Dave. And so we've been gathering data, we've been doing indoor air quality sampling. We have enough data now where we can start to generate some usable data, in my opinion. And so I want to get that put together, and I'll work that with Vinny, with Eric, and see if we can help guide some of our maintenance activities based on that. We have some critical repairs and inspections of our sprinkler systems that need to occur. I think we talked about that at the last school committee meeting I was at. One thing that I think that we need to address is the chairlift at Cutler. So again, this would be something we probably wouldn't pursue due to the cost, but now that the school's not moving forward, I think we ought to look at that chairlift and look at replacing that. It's been locked out by the state. I'm pretty sure that thing's over 20 years old, so we'll work that through the capital committee and see what we can do there. The third is green initiatives. So a lot of the projects that we do, we usually have Vicky not too far away talking with us, and so I want to continue to bring the green initiatives into the school. One thing that Eric is working on long before I started, and it seems to it's something that's just going to continue, and hopefully we'll have it at some point, is the solar canopy at the middle school. And so the cost savings on that are, I mean, Eric knows better than I do, but that's something that we want to work on. We have a new vendor for environmental controls. I've met with them a couple times now, looking at the high school for opportunities. Right now, we're on a primarily pneumatic-driven system there, and if you spend any time in the boiler room where the air compressor is located, you'll notice that air compressor fires off about every 30 seconds. Huge, huge, huge energy waste. And so I'm working with BCM right now to try and figure out if there's a way that we can electrify our thermostats, our equipment that's pneumatic-driven, and trying to figure out an ROI on that type of stuff. On the same note, there are also grants available for that they're going to help me with, and again, anything that I move forward with there, I will present to the committee. And then finally, we did talk about the fluorescent fixtures over at Cutler. And really, that is kind of the highlights and kind of what I'm looking at over the next year. By no means am I tied to any of the things that I'm focusing on, per se. Obviously, there's a whole lot of other things like that pesky snow that keeps falling that seems to railroad some of this really quickly, but you know, I'm open to suggestions, and I hope that at least this plan is in alignment with what the school committee, Eric and Vinny, are trying to do.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
No?
I will just say, thank you for that. Yeah, say it. What was that?
Well, it's really thorough reporting.
Yeah, it was-
I always appreciate it, yeah.
It's a lot of
Very
moving
thorough.
parts.
I know I took the time and made myself read it really slowly because it really takes some time to see, like each one of the bullet points is big and important, and it's easy, I think, to, if you don't really read it, like, I guess I'm sort of encouraging anyone who's listening to take the time to read it, because we get asked a lot about maintenance and the state of the schools, and this report was really comprehensive and helpful, and also a little overwhelming.
It is a lot. There's a lot going on, but I've had good support. We've got a great team here, and fortunately, you know, we can take the good that came out of the bad, right? So we did have a very thorough report on the Cutler site as part of the school project, which is referenced in this report as well, also on our website. So anybody listening, you know, the state of the school report will be there. All the information from the school vote and all that information that was generated is there. Highly recommend people take time to read it.
Yeah, and I can't tell if Julia's trying to say something.
Nope.
No, you're very far away for me to see, so it's hard for me to tell.
If you see me doing anything, I'm coughing.
The thing that I think is important for everybody to understand is this is what's known. With the age of our buildings, there are a lot of unknowns. I mean, we know that there's a water pipe at Cutler that was temporarily repaired in the middle of the night last year that needs to be fully replaced. We know that there are lots of opportunities for failure given the life cycles of our current equipment, both in our buildings and on top of our buildings, including our roofs, our HVAC systems, our ventilator units. And Curtis is really trying to do that day to day, every day, something new. We talked about ice dams, and Curtis and his guys have been mopping water for, it seems like 3 weeks straight, because we can't beat the ice dams. They just keep coming. It's been cold and crazy, but there's just so many other things that this report does not highlight and does not bring out, and I think it's important to know. Like, Curtis is the only guy that I talk to at 4:30 in the morning, because we're trying to figure out if snow is going to get moved enough, if we're going to be able to get ready for school, and I appreciate the work he's done. I told him when he got hired, you're going to be drinking out of a fire hose. I'm pretty sure he still is, and it's been more than a year, so I think it's important to note that he has gotten a lot done. He's organized a lot of things. This is just, I think, a snapshot of some of those things. There are a lot of things going on behind the scenes, like looking into using our Brightly system to manage our rental fees, as I talked about last meeting. That's part of, kind of Curtis behind the scenes. Dealing with this, usually transportation and operations also fall into this. So this is a small piece of what he does, even though it's extremely comprehensive. There are still other ways he's running around. So I just wanted to note that, thank him for his work and his team for keeping us up and running and keeping us moving forward as much as we can, and we'll just continue to pursue options. We talk about grants all the time. We talk about finding ways to come up with different ways to do things. Curtis has been able to just investigate and willing to turn and look a different way to say, hey, maybe there's a different way to do this. So we'll continue to do that and continue to help move this whole process and problem along.
Thank you, I appreciate that. There was no way I was missing my son playing the drums yesterday.
I hear you.
So, schools were opening.
Oh, thank you. Okay, anybody else have anything?
Thank you.
Next up is the high school roof. Guessing you may be just staying.
Yeah, I'm just gonna hang here. All right, so one of the exhibits that was on tonight's agenda is a letter from the MSBA. And this is the letter giving us, or letting us know the grant amounts. So you'll notice in paragraph 2, the board approved an estimated maximum total facilities grant of $4,445,185. Which does not include any funds potential for eligible owners and construction contingency expenditures. They also reference a number of $4,675,933. And so that really, based off the cost of the roof, which I think is around 10.2 right now?
10.26, yeah, 10.2 million.
So maybe I should back up. So what we're doing, for people that are listening in and who may not know, is we're engaged with the MSBA ARP program to replace 128,000 square feet of high school roof. This includes all of the high school and the athletic hallway and locker rooms. It's important to note that those, if you look on an aerial, you'll see that the high school roof is mostly a white material, PVC material, and those were done at some point during the middle school renovation. Where those are part of the high school, we were able to include them in this project. The history of this is actually Tom Geary started this statement of interest. And this was back in 2024. The statement of interest was accepted. We got assigned, I finished that statement of interest. He started it, I finished it. We were signed an OPM. So the MSPA is part of the ARP program, works a little bit differently than the core program. They assign you an OPM, they assign you a designer. The OPM we were designed is a company called P3, and we've been dealing with a gentleman named Rob Todisco. The designer is actually the same designing firm that did our high school field project, obviously different engineers. I don't know if we'd want a high school field on top of our roof, although that would be kind of cool. And the gentleman running that, his name is Brian Neely. So we met back in June of 2025. We did our kickoff meeting. We met on site. We took a walk around, we showed them the roof. I have to admit, between that time and October, there was a few moments I was up there and I was covering my eyes as they were cutting into our roof for test cuts and pulling it up like a nice piece of wedding cake. And so they do that for cross-sectioning. It's a little nerve-wracking, especially when you're already dealing with roof leaks, but they're professionals. They had roofers there, they patched them. Patches have not leaked. So this activity went on. In September, we were told by the MSBA our reimbursement rate was 45.52%. October, we received our estimate cost, total estimated cost of 10.6. The numbers were massaged a little. That's how it came back down to 10.2. We submitted to the MSBA on October 23rd, and then we received this letter on the 12th saying that we were accepted in. I'm making this sound like there wasn't a lot of work by a lot of people. There was a lot of things, a lot of activity going on in between there. But that's basically the highlights of it. Moving forward, what we need to do is, now that we've been accepted in, is we're entering the phase of the project for the construction documents and bid documents to be generated. So that's what they're working on now. They're finalizing drawings, they're getting bid documentation ready. And we're kind of getting this ready in the parallel effort to April 11th, which is the town vote. Once we're approved funding, those bid docs will hit the street, and then away we're going to go. I think I have that right, Eric?
Got it, yep.
And I think tonight what we're here to discuss is the vote language.
Yeah, essentially, the process is initiated, MSBA, to the towns. We work with our OPM to kind of formalize everything, get our numbers. Right now, we're looking at $10.2 million for a total roof project, 128,000 square feet that will take approximately 6 months to complete. So we want to start it in the summer because it's going to overlap into the school year, unfortunately. It's just it's a lot of roof. So this letter determined that we'll get approximately $4.6 million, between $4.4 and $4.6 million. There is a comment in there that says it could be less, and it's only because if the cost of the roof comes in, if we come in at 9.3, they would adjust their numbers. But this is where we sit now. What we need to move forward from here is, tonight we have a motion that I'll put on the screen in a second to approve the funding for the total $10.2 million. We have to, at the MSBA request, at the request of our attorneys, at the request of our bond counsel, has to have the whole amount on there so that everything's transparent. So we would approve the borrowing tonight. That would move to the warrant. We would send to the towns the warrant language, the warrant motion, and the ballot vote, because it would be a debt exclusion in both towns. So the vote tonight is to secure the funding, and then we'll move it on to the towns for the addition to the warrants. There'll be 2 votes in each town. There'll be one at town meeting on the floor, and then there's one at the ballot, because it's a debt exclusion. Questions?
Can you speak a little bit about, just, I guess I'm modeling this after the questions we got regarding the elementary school building. We have one number. Was there a place to gather? I know we bid out to the construction later, but like, is this number, were we able to get other estimates, I guess is the question.
Yeah, so what will happen is the number is the not to exceed number, just like the field project. So the 10.296345, that number, 10,296,345, becomes a not to exceed number.
Got it.
As Curtis said, we'll put this out to bid, and that bid process could come in at 9.4,
Right.
So we just have to have a number transparent enough for the towns to know they're voting on this number, and there's no intention to exceed it.
Got it.
There is, however, I want to be very transparent and clear. Vicki Massoni and Curtis have worked together to get a grant for the rooftop unit, which you've already approved, $148,000 grant for approximately $300,000 unit. We are trying to push that off to the same time the roof gets done. So if the roof gets approved, they're gonna take the old unit off anyway, and we're hoping they can just replace it with the new unit to save us some more money, so, that's the only thing that is different than
Okay.
this $10.2 million.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Questions? So, here it is. It's up already.
Amy's got it.
I'm gonna read it,
Oh, you're gonna read it?
but I have a question about it.
Yeah.
It says voted. Should I say voted
No,
or should I say
nope.
moved?
You should say
Yeah, I-
Start,
okay.
just started with, yep.
Just checking. Are we ready?
Get a water, not because I have to read that.
Okay.
Long one.
I move that the Hamilton Wenham Regional School District, the district, hereby appropriates the amount of $10,296,345 for the purpose of paying costs of the roof system replacement at the Hamilton Wenham Regional High School located at 775 Bay Road in Hamilton, Massachusetts, including the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto, the project, which proposed repair project would materially extend the useful life of the school and preserve an asset that otherwise is capable of supporting the required educational program, and for which the district may be eligible for a school construction grant from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, MSBA, said amount to be expended at the direction of the district's Director of Facilities, Operations, and Transportation. To meet this appropriation, the district is authorized to borrow said amount under and pursuant to Chapter 71, Section 16D of the general laws and the district agreement, as amended, or pursuant to any other enabling authority. The district acknowledges that the MSBA's grant program is a non-entitlement discretionary program based on need as determined by the MSBA, and any project cost the district incurs in excess of any grant approved by and received from the MSBA shall be the sole responsibility of the district. Provided further that any grant that the district may receive from the MSBA shall not exceed the lesser of 45 52/100%, 45.52% of eligible approved project costs as determined by the MSBA, or 2, the total maximum grant amount determined by the MSBA, and that the total amount of borrowing authorized pursuant to this vote shall be reduced by any grant amount set forth in the project funding agreement that may be executed between the district and the MSBA. I further move that within 7 days from the date on which this vote is adopted, the secretary be and hereby is instructed to notify the select board and the finance committee of each of the member towns of this district as to the amount and general purposes of the debt herein authorized as required by the district agreement and by Chapter 71, Section 16D of the general laws.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Kristen Noon. Thank you, Amy. Are there questions or further discussion?
I think so.
No? All right. Looks like we're ready to vote. We'll start with you, Julia.
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes?
Jen?
Yes.
Dana's a yes. That is unanimous of the 5 members present, and the motion passes.
Thanks for all that work.
Thank you.
for all of that work.
Yeah.
We still got a lot of work to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
Appreciate it.
we'll see. Okay. Next up, we have, back to you, Eric, for some formative evidence.
Thank you. I think everybody, Kristen's familiar with the process, so just so everybody understands, the process is twofold for me. As superintendent, I am evaluated yearly on the superintendent evaluation instrument and rubric that is offered by the state. We've used the same process this is my 5th year here, so we continue to use that. My evidence submission is at 2 points, mid-cycle, which is what you see here, and then at the end of the year, it'll be in May, so that there can be some discussion about the final evaluation, which is generally presented by the committee in June. This is really the some of the information, not all of it. It is intended to be that way purposefully. We're only halfway through the year. So when you look at some of the things that are on here, it's set up initially about my goals that I set that were approved back in October by the committee. There were a number of goals, including improving instructional leadership, completing the strategic plan, examining start time changes, and active advocacy and networking on behalf of the district, and that's both within our local communities and at the State House. And then the next part is broken down by the 4 standards that are required as part of the evaluation required by the state. I'll use Standard 1 as an example. Standard 1 in instructional leadership, under each of the overarching umbrella of the standards, in this case instructional leadership, there are indicators for different segments or sections. So the information under each of the segment is for you to look at as evidence. Again, this is a partial submission to the point of where we are at the school year now. There are things still ongoing. There are things that will be added between now and then, and this document will probably double, if not triple in size by the time we get to the end of year mark, in which the committee will use that to determine, and among other things, to determine my final evaluation in June. So just wanted to make it available to you, make sure you had it, to start reviewing, start looking at now, because the process is a bit daunting, and it does come up all at once, and certainly I am available at any time to answer questions about this or about anything else that we're working on in the district. So I just wanted to make sure people had it now to start looking at it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
People have questions? I have a question that's not really, it's more about the rubric. I think
Sure.
in the past couple of years, we thought that the rubric was changing. Do you happen to know whether it's the same or not?
The current rubric that is on the link
Is the same?
is the same.
Yep.
This is the one they're using. Excuse me, sorry. This is the one they're using this year. I had to double check myself because I think you and I had that conversation about the rubric, but this is the one that they are using this year.
Okay.
Thanks.
Just in case. And I guess, I don't know if anybody else has any questions. I just want to say, I just made a note, soon, maybe at our next meeting, we should just talk about the schedule for the evaluation. It's, we usually make sure and like Eric said, the final evaluation will likely be in May, and we should just have that as a discussion about the timing. But this is helpful to have now so that you can start reading it and asking questions, and it's a good opportunity that, you can ask Eric directly if you have questions about. Okay.
Under Goal 3 on page 2, the 4th bullet point down, is that done? The review existing survey data and current data from previous submissions? It was
on
one
the
of the
start
few that
times?
wasn't marked.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't mark it. But yes, it is done. We did that at the beginning of the process for the school start times.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Thank you for that, and it is a lot to go through,
Yeah.
a lot to put it together. Okay, next up, we had discussed, we still had a couple of vacancies on our school committee liaisons. I don't know if Eric, if you can put it up there. So we talked about filling this. So when I looked at this list here, before we get started, one of the things I realized at the bottom too, I think we actually discussed, but we just didn't actually remove it, that Hamilton Master Planning and Wenham Master Planning were going on when we created this, and I was the representative to Hamilton, and David Frankel was the representative to Wenham, but both of those processes are complete, so. we should have removed those.
Yeah,
you know,
yep.
But we didn't. So the other positions that are currently vacant for liaisons are the Wenham Select Board, the Wellness Committee, CPAC. And I believe those were all previously filled by David Frankel. So I would say,
Oh, Dana.
Yep.
Dana, this
Yes.
is Julia.
yeah.
I'm on the Wellness Committee.
Oh, okay.
I've been going to their meetings either via Zoom or in
Well,
person.
excellent. I think, now that you say that, I think we knew that. All right. So we really just have two. Does anyone want to pipe up and say they've actually been going to CPAC?
No, but we can remove Athletics Facilities Improvement Building Committee.
Oh, yes.
It's still, we're going to leave it just because the project's not fully complete,
Okay.
just so we can finalize it and say everybody's been in the loop.
Okay, but that's good to think about
Yep.
after the election in the spring, when we revisit this. That will be something we can. So I guess when I look at this, now, good to know about the Wellness Committee, so really we're looking at Wenham Select Board and CPAC. I don't know if anyone is interested in either one of those.
I'm
Kristen?
only a liaison to one committee, so I'm happy to do another one. So I don't mind doing either of them, or, I mean, I live in Wenham, I could do Wenham Select Board, I could do CPAC, whatever seems.
Excellent, so I heard Kristen being open to doing one or both of those. I do think obviously it could be anyone, but I do think it does make some sense to have a Wenham resident be the Wenham Select Board representative. Anybody else have any other thoughts that they want to jump in, or a nomination?
I'm on 3. I have 3 liaison relationships.
Yeah, well, again, these were all held by, I think that 3 is kind of,
I'm happy to keep my 3.
I only have 1 at this point. And is that true? I only have the FinCom,
Yes.
I think,
Yep.
yeah. Oh, yeah, because I was on master planning. So, I think 3 is plenty. Yeah, so I think everyone should, I'm happy to, if nobody else wants to do CPAC, I could jump in. I don't think I'd be the right person for the Wenham Select Board, I think.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that one.
Um,
How many are there altogether? I'm trying to think if we sort of divide them up,
Well, like Jen just mentioned, they do some of them change,
Yeah.
and some of them are more busier than others.
It's just the Select Board and CPAC if Julia's taken.
Yeah, that's all that's left. All right, so at this point, somebody make a nomination. We'll see how this goes.
I nominate Kristen Noon for the position of liaison to the Wenham Select Board.
Second.
Okay, I heard a nomination in a second. Kristen, is that something that you would accept, the nomination?
Yes.
All right, are there any other nominations for the Wenham Select Board liaison? Is there any discussion? Okay, it looks like we're ready to vote. Jen?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Dana's yes. Kristen?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
All right, and is unanimous of the 5 members present, and congratulations, Kristen.
Thank you.
Does anyone have a nomination for CPAC? Kristen and I could fight it out. Do you have an interest in being on CPAC?
I can do it. I have a child that was previously a special ed student, so I've never been to a meeting. I'm not sure what, I think as a liaison,
Right, as a liaison, it's great if you can attend some meetings. You're certainly not required to attend all of the
Okay.
meetings, but also could just reach out to
Yep.
find out what's going on.
okay. All right.
It's also helpful
sure.
for them to know, hey, I have somebody I can reach out to the school committee to
Yep.
ask questions.
Yeah.
Okay, sure, I'm happy to do it. And
Not that I wouldn't, but no. I'll take it. All right. Does anyone have a nomination?
I nominate Kristen Noon as the liaison to the CPAC.
Second.
Second by Jen Carr, and that is something that you would accept?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any further discussion?
Nope.
All right. Julia?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Dana's a yes. Amy?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
And that is unanimous of the 5 members present.
Kristen.
And Kristen, thank you very much. We're putting more work on your plate.
It's okay.
Excellent.
Figure it out.
Thank you. Okay. And I mean, I'll just say, you're already paying quite a bit of attention, I think, to the select board and the FinCom over there.
Yeah,
in
I
Wenham.
do. Yeah, that won't be too
I
bad.
know, from conversations.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you all for that. And next up is a report, as we knew was coming, a report on the community conversations that took place. Eric, to you.
Thank you. Actually, I'm going to back this up to give a little context. The community conversations, as many of you know, were in the month of January. We did 2 different dates. One related to a daytime event, which it snowed and rained and iced and everything, and we still had more than 50 people in the room. The second one was done on the January 29th, which was at night at the high school, and it was a little smaller crowd. A couple of people that came to both, but it was a good opportunity to collect data and get information from different types of people within our community. It wasn't just school side, it wasn't just town side. It was a really nice, I thought, a really nice mix of people who had varying degrees of like or dislike for the process of the school building construction, the school building consolidation idea, et cetera. So for me, I had to try to figure out a way to organize this whole process. So I dipped back into the 1980s and dug up something called the Bono 6 Hats, and this really gives us an opportunity to focus in 6 different areas with a group that is specifically divided in a lot of ways, and try to maintain order and keep things moving, kind of pointed in a positive direction. The way I framed it for people was that we would start kind of before the project and walk through the steps before the project, to the project, after the project, and looking forward, because ideally we need to look forward. So this process was specifically designed to dig into those different segments of the school consolidation project and looking far forward to see what happened. We had over 90 people attend both sessions. The process was really specifically around hats. So I'll use an example of the white hat. That's how we opened it. The white hat was dedicated to grounding the conversation in objective reality. We were looking at neutral data, trying to take away the speculation, the speculative stuff, and try to figure out what influence, what are the facts around what influenced the vote around the school project. I spent about 15 minutes, between 10 and 15 minutes on each hat in this process, moved into the red hat, and that really had to do with emotion, and that was really just give me one word that describes how you felt during that voting process or during that school process. That was pretty powerful. The third one was the black hat. That's really the things that we have to look out for. What do we need to be cautious about? And also talking about some critical thinking along the way. After that black hat segment, we moved to yellow hat and started to look towards the future and exploring some of the benefits and the shared values in the room. As I said before we started this, there is one shared value that our schools need some care and attention, and I think that's one shared value that came out very clearly here. Once the yellow hat was completed, moved on to the green hat and trying to figure out creative new solutions. What types of things might we have not thought of? What types of things may be beneficial to this process? And I'll give some examples. People said, what about Penguin Hall? Why don't we look at Penguin Hall? So those types of things came up. We were trying to push people to think out of the box and look beyond some of the obvious things that were out there. And then we brought it all around with the blue hat. And the blue hat was really how to synthesize it all, but really put the question in front of people, the question that I think drove that whole segment. I could support a future plan if. That was something that we got some amazing answers. Amazing. People really took some time to think about it. And it was just a writing exercise. I gave them a half sheet of paper with that question on it, and they wrote out the things that they were thinking about. What could I support? And it was lots of great information. I think as you go into this report, you'll see that the hats come up as organizational pieces of the report as well. So kind of what happened under the white hat conversation, what are the facts there? What were the information gaps? Red hat, what were the dominant sentiments? I mean, you can see in the report, the community feels the process was predetermined, manipulated, disingenuous. And then what are some of the emerging positives? People were more hopeful. People want to be included, and they think it needs to be student focused. Moving further into the black hat, people were really concerned about unsustainable tax burden. We heard that a lot, particularly the impact on our seniors and middle class. As we said throughout the process, your house isn't paying your taxes. And what that means is you might have $1 million house, but you might not have the money to pay the taxes on the $1 million house because of lots of factors. You bought it 50 years ago for $35,000 and it's gained a lot over time. Things like that, where people's house value has outpaced their income. They talked a lot about the mega school concern and what happened with larger facilities and how they can be so much more impersonal. And then back through the yellow hat, really looking at high quality education. High quality education, we want to be top in the state. That came out very clearly as part of this report. And then we dug into kind of inclusion and special education as a separate, and there was a real good consensus across the board of we should have inclusive, improved spaces for special education students across the district to ensure equitable education. Green hat, looking at alternatives, there were proposals included a lot of renovation, conversations around renovation, different phases of renovation, like do a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, replace one whole school, remodel two others. So there were different suggestions throughout the information that we got. And I talked about Penguin Hall as one of the suggestions, Gordon Conwell property and Iron Rail. Finishing up with the blue hat, we really started to say, what does safety and modernization look like? People talked about air quality, heating, security, and 21st century educational layouts. And then really, what was their driving force? And transparency and integrity came up a lot. Really, people are looking for independent architectural design assessments of all buildings. When you look at the data, it really pokes out to say, let's look at all of our school buildings. We have 6, including central office. Let's get somebody to give us an idea of the different levels of renovation that are available, and then let's decide within our communities of how to attack that. And that seemed to be the sentiment across the data set as we dug into it. We looked a little bit about what is the cost of inaction, so that whole section is fairly straightforward. We've talked about this a lot, escalating operation and maintenance costs, legal compliance and liabilities. You heard Curtis tonight talk about ADA compliance, educational and specialized service costs, out-of-district tuition. Are there opportunities for us to bring some of these kids back in if we have specific program spaces available? And then equitable access for all of our kids. It talks about special needs students in this report, which is really what got highlighted in a lot of the data, but really equitable for all of our kids. And then the big one is community and real estate impact. What does that look like? And we talked about it through the process, but it came out again in this data set. Substandard school spaces are recognized as having a negative impact on the town's overall property values. Outdated facilities make it difficult for us to compete with private schools or to maintain top school in the state status. Then we pushed in a different direction and tried to say, okay, what does all this data tell us about moving forward? Which was ultimately why we did this. We wanted to know where people were at. We wanted to get a foundation or a baseline, but we also wanted to understand the path forward. One of the things that was very clear was that students will always be at the center, and I kind of said thank you for that because I wasn't sure how that would come out, but it was really clear in the data looking at safety, accessibility, and inclusivity. Really looking at the ideas of how to approach it, I think is open for further conversation. There were a couple of different angles, if you will, mostly pointed to a hybrid phased plan. So looking at either doing a larger scale renovation on, and I'll just use this as an example, it's not in the report, on the Cutler School, excuse me, it is in the report, on the Cutler School, or looking at it from the perspective of all 5 schools doing a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. So that hybrid approach rather than saying let's build one giant school and consolidate our schools. There was a lot of call for what is our need priority to be able to modernize our schools, and then what is the most critical site. We've identified Cutler as a critical site. The state has identified Cutler as a critical site, so I put that in there as it's likely Cutler. Then respecting the town identity, and this is really talking about the community small school preference. We heard it kind of weigh out throughout the process, and it was really part of the beginning information when people said, you know, when we were digging into it and said, why did you vote the way you did? And it was, you know, I don't want a big school. I want to keep the small town value of a small school. And then proving the value, like what's the value to the community and how do we deliver results while looking at still other projects because we know there are others. Truth and cost, there was a lot of emotion around the process. And again, there was a call throughout this data set about looking at independent architect or designers to determine the cost of renovation versus new build for all 5 schools, and then present this as different stages to the community so that the communities can decide. What was interesting was a lot of opposition statements within the data set were about the fact that they felt the costs are being inflated. Costs of repairs were being inflated to force a new build. And then the regional collaboration, there were a lot of suggestions about looking at different properties. We have looked at a lot of them, as people remember through the process. We can dig deeper and try to figure out some different approaches. And then the conclusions are really around the middle path, where we really want to prioritize safety, special education, inclusion as non-negotiables for moving forwards. Framing the project around needs versus want, and offering a plan that keeps the household tax impact within a clearly defined threshold of support. The key here is how do we find that threshold of support? Where are people comfortable in spending in relation to keeping up their schools and their school buildings? There's some trust factors that came up quite a bit in the data, and I think part of that is continuing to work to build trust and rebuild trust. That was part of my reasoning for doing these community conversations. The door was wide open for anybody that wanted to come, say what you got to say, put everything on the table, and that all is part of the data that's held here and here. And I think it's important to look at the last paragraph where it says, we're not just looking for a yes vote. We're looking for a project we can all take pride in. We're committed to a process that's honest and inclusive. By focusing on our shared values, educational excellence, fiscal responsibility, and community care, we will build schools that serve our children today and protect our town's values for the next 50 years. I think that really sums it up. And people might say, well, that's not really a direction. I think there is a direction. Look at putting out the request for studies on the buildings, gathering the information, outlining the request for proposals so that it shows different levels of renovation or repair for each of the buildings versus a new build at each of the buildings, as well as some other ideas. Architects and designers may come up with other ideas, but I think then put it all out to the communities, both of the communities, and let people weigh in on that. And then at the same time, try to figure out a way to figure out what that balance is. What's the balance point for where people would buy into renovating, updating, or upgrading our schools? And I think there are some things that are clearly non-negotiable in this report, and other things that we can look at. And I think that's gives us at least somewhat of a direction forward. It's not crystal clear, but I never thought it would be, because there are still a lot of factors, like the kind of the threshold factor of where people are comfortable. Just so people are aware, if you scroll down into the appendix, all the data that was collected in all the sessions is the next 20-something pages. It's everybody's response, everybody's sticky that they wrote out, everything we took down on paper is in the appendix and available. And just so people aren't worried that we made our own interpretations, we also have a website on our site that has all the original pictures of all of the data that was collected. So there are pictures of the posters with the actual stickies on there, so people can look at those as well. And certainly wanted to put it out there too, to give people an opportunity to come to some conclusion as well, and maybe weigh in on this report and give us some idea. I'll release it tomorrow to the general public through my email, send it to the towns and see if they can get it out as well, and then start to get some feedback from various groups.
All right, thank you for that. Anybody?
I appreciate this. I'm glad you included the, raw data in here. It's helpful, too.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting to read.
Yeah.
You got time, just kind of go through it. It's pretty telling.
There's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I wish I could say I was more, like there was an answer that just was like, yes, this will work.
Yeah.
But
Me
there's
too.
not.
There's not.
Yeah, even in dipping through the data, I spent hours and hours digging in through to try to figure out, is there a direction that absolutely glows and, is our North Star in this data? It's not perfect, but I think we do have some good steps that we can take. Those steps takes time. So if you say, okay, let's do an RFP on all of our buildings, that still has to go to a town meeting, and it's not going to be ready for the next town meeting. So there's some time factor involved here too, which buys us some time to do some other work. I think it's important to try to work within the community to figure out where that threshold lies. We were coming out, if you remember, the average cost, I think, in Hamilton was approximately $2,000 a household on an $860,000 house. That was a lot of money. That's beyond the threshold, clearly, because that excited people to come and vote against the project. Where is the line, I guess, is the question. And I think in looking, even when you look at tonight's budget, if you take the debt that we're already paying, we're looking at $1 million here and $1 million there, that's starting to add up for the towns. So trying to find that threshold over a 20-year period is going to be of primary importance to move anything forward, anything at all. And I'm not 100% sure what that number is, and I certainly welcome the opportunity to have conversations with people about what that might look like to figure out a process. Because you still have people on all sides, like, yes, let's build the new school I want. I had a guy approach me at the event and say, I just moved to town, and I moved to town because I thought you were building a new school. You know, and I get that. And then we also had a person in our second night who's been in the community for 50 years, is fixed income, and is like, please don't blow me out of my community by raising my taxes. So there's I understand it, I see it, and I think the process for me gave me some good perspective, as well as talking to people from the various sides of the whole debate, if you will.
Can I add something?
Yeah, Julia, go
Can
ahead.
you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
I like that we have sort of our non-negotiables, which is safety and special education inclusion. I think that will help guide any decision that we make, and also having a framework around needs versus wants. I really do, I think that because there's so many variables and opinions and things that need to be considered in this project, having at least one or two things that we can sort of all agree on, I think is very, very important moving forward. But this is fantastic work. It's certainly a lot of like food for thought.
Would it be worthwhile to also look at switching our 3 schools? So like one school is kindergarten and first grade and pre-K, then we've got second and third and fourth and fifth, because that way everybody in the town has a piece invested in each of the schools, and it's not going to end up being like, well, Wenham won't vote for anything in Hamilton, and Hamilton won't vote for anything in Wenham, because every town is going to have skin in the game for all 3 schools.
Yeah, I mean, I think that and other things are worth investigating. The restructuring piece has been a conversation for many years within the administration and teachers, and talking with even teacher leadership about what types of ideas do you have as we enter these stages of budget difficulty. Are there some things we can do to save money? And that's part of looking at what does restructuring look like? What is kind of rejiggering the way schools are set up look like? How do we approach different aspects of, you know, how schools run? So there's definitely opportunity. There's lots of opportunity. I think we're at a blank slate state where we're here, we have some ideas, we have a little bit of direction. We can start in that direction and build on it as we move forward.
I also saw a lot on knowing the costs of different options in detail. It would behoove us to communicate to the community that if that is truly what you want, it ain't gonna be cheap.
Right.
You know, just doing one school in detail was $7 million, or several $1 million.
Yeah, if you do a study, I was talking to our former OPM now in the school building process, but we've stayed connected and had some good conversation. But they were able to get me copies of requests that other communities have done. So other communities have done some similar things. They've hired architects and designers to do that thing. Okay, we want to be able to look at each building, give us some different levels of approach, and then take all that and bring it forward to the community and get an idea of what direction to go in. So there are other communities that have done that and are currently doing that. And those studies range from $300,000 to $500,000, and you know it gets more expensive depending on what you want to include, how much information you want to include, how deep do you want to go with the data, what do you really want to know. I mean, the advantage we have is there is so much information that's already been dug up on the Cutler School. That one's almost done, but all the other schools will take some time to be able to figure out that direction. And again, it's going back to the towns and saying we're going to do this, but right now we don't have MSBA support, so it's on 100% on the communities. And we will bring SOIs. Curtis alluded to earlier. We will bring statements of interest forward on the elementaries, because I think those are where our greatest needs lie right now, to to vote because the window has opened and will be open until about mid-April, and we have to submit. And we'll submit again, and we may or may not get selected, but I think it's incumbent on us to continue to try to get some state funding to offset some of the costs.
Okay. That was great. I'm glad we have that information. And there were good sessions, and it was great to see the number of people that were willing to come out, especially on that crazy
In an ice
icy
storm.
day. And really engage. And I don't know about everybody, I think all of you, everybody, I don't know, I sat at a very diverse group of people, got to meet people with lots of different ideas. It was really, it's good to have those conversations.
I do think a key piece of this will be, I don't want to say better numbers, but just that piece of the cost of renovations. That I feel like that just has come up so many times that no matter what happens next, I feel like answering that question will be just like a keystone to going thereafter. So I think for next year's budget planning or whatever we have to do, trying to kind of fund some of those studies, I think will be important, but I also think it'll be the process for how we do that, because I feel like for me, one of the things that seemed challenging for the community was the long committee nature of this, where it seemed to all of a sudden come out of nowhere that we were voting for a new school. For some people, not for other people, but for some. So how do we have those studies and share that information with folks in a way that they are believing the results of those studies, that those are real numbers, that they understand the process, they understand the need for OPMs and designers and prevailing wage and all of the detail of this. And I don't know how we do that, if we need a subcommittee or a different kind of grouping of people, more community conversations throughout a process. I don't know what that it looks like, but I think that kind of process, I think, will be key to those numbers being accepted as real numbers.
Great.
And I think working closely with the paper to get that out, because that goes to everybody. And it's pretty much our only way of making sure that we're communicating with everybody, which we didn't have last time.
No, that's true.
Yep.
Yeah. And somehow to have some ability earlier on in the process, I think that's what you're talking about, to have not just people be aware, but become sort of invested. If there were some way to be like, I don't know what that is, whether there's some way to have a straw poll or have a non-binding question at a town meeting or something where people could be actively chiming in on, yes, this is the direction we want. But I think it's after, or hopefully with the information, that Eric's kind of talking about, having this framework of, these are basic renovation costs, or basic ideas of what the renovations would cost.
I mean, for lack of a better term, I think we need some sort of like ranked choice process of like, this is my first choice, this is my second choice, so that we can kind of see where the most consensus lies. I also am going to be really curious to see how the overrides go this year, because I feel like that is going to be kind of a litmus test for the investment that people are willing to make in the schools, because I'm having a hard time in my own mind trying to wrap around the sort of feedback that we're getting that we need to invest more in maintenance, and so we're making some investments in that regard, and it's going to be one factor in a community-wide override, and similarly also being told that override is at risk of not passing because it's too large. So I think, kind of to Eric's point, like where we're trying to sort of also triangulate in on what can the taxpayer bear, and I think yes, we should apply for grants, we should do all these things, but, those are applications, not guarantees, so I think, yes, explore every possibility, of course, but also knowing that there's no guarantee that a grant application is granted favorably and things like that. So I think trying to hone in on what can the tax base really actually pay for is the other, I think, answer here,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the way the process worked, it wasn't really a possibility but I think everyone, if you could have it, everyone would have wanted, here are 5 completely fleshed out choices.
Right.
Like, everyone would want that.
Right.
It's just that.
Sounds like what, reading through here, that's what people want.
Well, and like, I think, me too, if we could have afforded to come up with 5 completely fleshed out choices, but I understand that, and so somehow we need to get some information so that people have choices that they can give indications about, okay, this is the level that
Right.
the level that I'm able to invest, and what direction that would look like. Like, is it this level and we want to put it all in one school, or is it this level and we spread it out, or,
Right.
so. But it sounds like people definitely are interested in
Something.
having, in pursuing information about what it would look like to do. I mean, we didn't get a message that the answer is just forget it, we want to let our schools fall down. That's not the
Right.
answer that we got, so.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Are we ready to move on?
Yeah.
We are.
Okay. And now, to the budget.
One more, that's it? Well, tonight is the night. We've been building up to this for the past 4 or 5 months. We are here to take a final vote on the superintendent's final FY27 debt service and operating budget request. Just as a brief overview, there are a lot of exhibits on the agenda. I just want to take a minute to go over them. There are 7 of them. Then we're going to do a brief review of the FY27 budget, take our vote, and then look at next steps. Just kind of like the public hearing, I'm not going into a full depth of the budget. We've all gone through it in the past 4 months. This is really just a formality to take a vote on it. We do have one minor update that I will get to in 1 second. Before I go over, I just wanted to say thank you to a whole bunch of people. Obviously, you guys, the entire school committee, Eric Tracy, our superintendent, our entire leadership team, and my business office, both town administrators, managers, and their whole finance team, both town select boards and FinComs for working through the budget cycle with us, obviously both our communities and all of our teachers, ESPs, admins, custodians, and food service workers who help keep our buildings running during the year. So in terms of our exhibits tonight, the first exhibit is this presentation that you're looking at now. The second exhibit is the full account detail and assessment calculations. This is the list of all 450 of our active accounts, the FTEs and all of the budgets for each line item, their changes year over year, and some historical data of the budgets that were set prior and their actuals, and also how we come up with our assessment calculations. Exhibit number 3 is the full detail of all of our year-over-year operating changes, broke out by school and by DESI category. Exhibit number 4 is a summary of all of those major operating changes, just summarized into categories over $5,000 or under $5,000. If I had a direct members of the committee or members of the public on which exhibits to look over, I would really stress to look at exhibit 3 and 4. That's where you're really going to find most of your data, most of that detail on what our changes are year over year. But moving on, I did include exhibit number 5, which is a summary of all of our staffing changes broken down by schools, so you can see where all of the movement is from FY 26 to 27. Exhibit number 6 is our operating budget to budget DESI expense summary. It's another way to look at our budget. I realize everyone absorbs things different, everyone learns in different ways. I just tried to present it in a different format. Maybe that helps click to somebody on how the budget works. Last, our exhibit number 7 is a budget to budget revenue and assessment summary. Again, just another way to view our budget. So just from a real high-level view, our FY27 budget cycle really was a difficult year. This is the 14th budget cycle I've been involved with in Hamilton Wenham, and I can say that this probably has been the most difficult budget year, and that really relates to what's going on with our salaries, how our COLAs, our step increases, have formulated this year, as well as the use of E&D last year. But just in terms of expenditures, just our COLAs, our step increases, and our columns amounted to over $1.3 million, which really makes up more than half of our overall increase year over year. When you combine that with our insurance increase of approximately $600,000, you're almost entirely at our budget increase year over year. But we do have increases to maintenance outside of salaries, increasing $588,000. This does incorporate changes to our utilities, as well as new investments in some capital projects and additional funds for preventative maintenance during the year. Because of these larger than normal increases, it's led us to make a lot of difficult decisions this year. One of them, and the main one, being to reduce our overall staffing by 7 instructional staff members, lowering our budget to budget by $418,000. We have also reduced or deferred purchasing a lot of our new technology. This has reduced our overall budget by $153,000. And last, we've reduced our athletic user fees by 5%, or roughly $35,000. These are not all of our reductions or all of our increases, obviously just our top 3 in each category. What you see here is our operating budget broken down by DESI category. This is the way the school district approves our operating budget during the budget cycle. This is the same numbers broken out by school or department. When you roll all these numbers together, our ultimate town assessment is coming in at a 5.25% increase, which broken down by town is a 6.58% increase to Hamilton and a 8.54% increase to Wenham. Now this is the budget vote, but there is one update I have for you before we take this vote. Last week, I had my final meeting with Harvard Pilgrim in regards to our premium rate increase for next year. I posted this exhibit Friday or Monday morning, and then just yesterday, we met with our PEC group, and within that meeting, they voted in a ceiling, a premium not to exceed amount. That percentage increase that they voted in correlates with what Harvard Pilgrim has quoted us. There is still more work to be done. I'm still in negotiations, but what we've done is established a ceiling from both sides. That premium rate increase is 3 percentage points lower than what is placed in this budget and is what is incorporated in that number here. So what I'm recommending tonight is that we actually change our overall budget and change the motion to reduce our health insurance, ultimately by that 3 percentage points. That reduction accumulates about just over $150,000. I had a whole thing to say that a budget is your budget up until the point where it's your actuals. We have a $51 million budget, and even just yesterday, numbers are changing. Tomorrow, more numbers are going to change, all the way up until 17 months from now, when the budget we're planning on now, some of these expenses will come to fruition in June of 2027. So a lot of these numbers do move around during the year. It will be final until you guys vote on it. But tonight, I am recommending that we realize that 3% decrease and do anything we can to try to lower our overall assessments to the district. I have included a corrected motion at the end of the slide that I can go into, but I really wanted to stop and give you guys the opportunity to ask any questions about that, or if you agree with lowering the budget. We don't have to, like I mentioned. A lot of things move between now and the end of the year. Something could increase between now and then, but I do recommend that we decrease the overall amount by those savings in health insurance costs. I can answer any question if you have it. Yep.
I have a question. Would that affect anybody's coverage?
It does not.
Okay.
Nope, it's just a change in the year-over-year premium rate increase that I projected.
Okay, thank you.
If no one does object to it, I can pull up the new motion that I prepared, just in case you want to do it, or we can go over the other slides.
I mean, we,
I had a question, I'm just looking.
Of course.
of course,
Give me two, give me
there are a lot
I
of
can give you a
exhibits.
second. I can kind of just go to my next steps if you want, just to give you a minute
Is it on
to.
this exhibit or one of the
do it?
other exhibits?
No, it was on one of the detailed exhibits.
Yep. Yep, I can just review the next steps just to give you a second to do it. So if we do vote on the final budget tonight, the next step will be Kevin Mers, our district treasurer, will review all of our documents tonight and certify the budget. On Monday, I will drop off that certification to the town administrators, the select boards, and their FinComs, and then at that point, it really sits with them. They're going to determine how the warrant's presented, they're going to determine how it's funded. So they're the ones that set how much might be needed for an override or how much might not be. That decision lies with them. We won't know that number until it's final, until they close their warrant towards the end of February, beginning of March. I could come up with a lot of scenarios on what might happen, but I really think it'd be better serve our time to wait to see what that warrant looks like, wait to see how it's worded, and wait to see what those final numbers are. Once we get those, as long as it's okay with you, I plan on presenting some scenarios on what some of the outcomes might be and what some of our options might be, depending on those results. But I really don't want to develop that until we see what the warrant looks like, until we see what the numbers are. In the meantime, the biggest thing is we need to prepare, obviously, for town meeting and educate the public on what this budget does, what the consequences of maybe a levy-only budget might be, depending on how that warrant is worded. That's why we really need to wait and see how they present it before we move forward. But that would be the next steps, is to prepare for town meeting and wait till the end of February to see what the warrant looks like. I will go back to that amended, changed motion.
Okay, so I found it. It's on the one that shows the increases and decreases over $5,000.
Yep.
There's a lot, there's the COLA base, but then towards the end there are COLA stipends. What, I know
What's
there's
the
a
difference?
in
Yep.
those obviously, but what is the difference?
Yeah, so sometimes you can have one COLA for your base salaries and one COLA for your stipends. When I break out a budget, I try to be as detailed as I can and give you what the COLA is based on just your base salaries. So if you think of the teacher's salary schedule, a master step 5, what is the COLA on that compared to what's the difference on the COLA on a stipend? Or on your longevity. It's just a different way to look at it. I certainly could have added both together and just called it our COLA overall. I was just trying to be more detailed and show you how much COLA is generated from base salaries versus how much is generated from stipends.
Then the additional FY26 COLA, that's stipends, right?
The additional FY26 COLA would be COLAs that were issued in FY26 that were over our budget in FY26. So think of it this way, even if your COLA was 0 in '27, you would still have FY26 COLA presented in that budget because we have to make up the gap from '26 to '27. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Again, it's just trying to be as detailed as possible, telling you where all these different numbers are coming from. It's not just, COLA on your base salaries. You have kind of 3 different categories of COLA, at least from what I consider. It wouldn't be wrong to lump all those together and just call it one big COLA number.
It was there 3 times, so I just
Yep.
wanted to understand the difference.
Yep.
That was my only question.
So, unless anyone has any questions, my thought is maybe we have a motion and then an opportunity for discussion.
Yeah. I'll read this motion.
Yes.
Yeah. I move that the Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee approve the final fiscal year '27 general fund expenditures budget of $47,251,917. This includes general fund operating expenses after offsets in the amount of $45,290,653 and general fund debt service expenses in the amount of $1,961,264. Furthermore, the gross operating expenses of the district before offsets have been allocated by the DESI defined chart of accounts according to the summary by DESI category chart included in this budget presentation and is detailed in the exhibits with the exclusion of $153,983 from the benefits and fixed charges DESI category.
Second.
Second by Jen Carr. Okay. Is there discussion?
So 2 concerns. One is what Jen talked about during the hearing, the fact that she's concerned that it won't pass in Hamilton. And the other one is, can you explain exactly how the towns are thinking about presenting this? Like, are they seriously committed to doing under the levy limit and then over the levy limit?
That is what I have been told, again, which is why I don't want to make a presentation on what scenarios we could have until they finalize it. But what we have been told is there will be 2 votes at town meeting, one for the budget at the levy limit and then one for everything over. So we really need to educate you on what a levy-only budget implications are. But again, I really think it'd be wise to see what that number is. The last number I was told, like I believe we mentioned earlier, Wenham was talking about 1.7 million. I believe that number has changed drastically, which will change our conversation drastically. So I think we should wait until we see the final numbers.
That was Hamilton.
I keep saying that, sorry.
Yeah.
Hamilton.
The other thing underneath that is there a way to make sure that it's not just school committee costs that are going in the part that's over the levy limit?
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
Right, if they're gonna put money, right, they're gonna do a budget for under the levy limit and then a budget for over the levy limit. That budget that is over the levy limit, I don't want it to just include school committee costs. Like, I don't want us to be the only one with skin in the game.
I don't
on getting
disagree.
that passed.
Unfortunately, that is not our decision.
That's up to the towns.
But
We should do everything we can do after to educate the community on what those amounts actually equate to, but I would wait to see what it is. So I'm just saying, if they matched what they were at our quintuple meeting, it would mean that Hamilton allowed us growth of 0.36%, well under the Prop 2.5. That would be up to us to educate the community on what that number means. But again, I wouldn't do any of that until we see the number. Because maybe that's not how the final number looks. Maybe they share in the
Right, and I'm
burden.
just going to jump in and say, we don't know, and we do know that both towns are still working, and it's,
Correct. All
changes
three of
are
us.
expected, that both towns are still working.
All three of us received updated health insurance numbers this week, so I'm sure they're even going to be updating their budget based on what they got. It could go up, it could go down based on what they've been told, so.
I guess my concern with how they're suggesting that they do this is that if it's just school committee, school district prices over the levy limit, then if that fails, we're the only ones that get smacked around.
I agree. I would just wait to see, because I don't think that's how the final result will look. I think they are going to share in the burden, but that's why I would wait until we see what the warrant looks like.
Yep.
Anybody have it? I don't know if anybody wants to discuss, I mean, it didn't sound like there was a lot of discussion about the lowering due to the insurance.
Yep,
I'm in agreement, I just wanted to put it out there, like I understand that I feel like that's the right thing to do, even though I heard I guess I'm just putting that as
I'll
a
say it in
discussion
a
point. I
different
think
way.
that's the right thing to do, even though we don't know, a million things could go up or down in the budget. It's all an estimate.
Right.
An excellent estimate, but I think it's the right thing to do, and I think, in talking about the way that the towns are looking at their budgets and the work that the towns are doing, my hope is that, this is what we would want everyone to do, is when you make your best estimate and then you discover that it's actually going to be lower, or, to do this kind of thing even though there is some risk. I guess that's just, that's part of the work that the towns are also doing right now, and I hope they experience something similar where they're able to find some, so.
Yeah, I mean,
And I guess I'm confused. So we're looking to vote on this final budget as presented
correct.
Correct.
with the caveat that everyone's going to get their health care expenses updated this week.
We got our numbers updated, and I'm requesting that we incorporate that update into our final budget. I'm not sure if the towns will do the same, but I do know they received updated health insurance numbers. Now, whether that increases their budget or lowers it, I'm not entirely sure. Does that answer your question?
Well, so you're looking, but you are looking for us to vote on this budget tonight.
That's
Yes.
correct.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
And
I
just,
wasn't sure if it was waiting for more numbers, but.
no, just so you know, Vinny has on the screen, he had an original number, but changed it, yesterday afternoon.
It was literally
This morning, maybe,
It
yeah, this
happened last
morning.
night at 5 o'clock.
Reduced we had a final budget presentation that he had posted that was coming forward. He has reduced that number by $153,983 because of a lower cost of insurance than was originally budgeted. So it's in our favor.
And in theory, we could say, we don't want to vote to lower the budget. We want to keep that 153,983 in the budget and reallocate it to some other category.
Of course you
Theory.
can.
I'm just for the sake of clarity.
Or you could-
That's what I was sort of bringing
I'm not
up.
advocating that, but just to be clear, like
Yeah,
that.
Of course you can, or you
Same.
don't even have to reallocate it now. You can leave it in that DESI category and allocate it at some point next year.
Okay.
You do have that option. I do not recommend doing that. I do recommend lowering it,
Yeah.
but you have
Yeah.
that option.
I think it's important to use that money to lower the budget, because if there is an issue with the lack of an override vote, that plays
That
into our
helps.
favor
Yeah.
down the road, where, cuts are reduced by that amount.
So, I don't know if I guess I feel like it's important to discuss. I mean, we haven't gotten a ton of feedback from the public. We've gotten very little. We got a little bit tonight. We've gotten maybe 2 emails, maybe 3, and over the whole budget process. I guess I'm really worried because I don't know what other people, I think that we're doing the right thing. I hear the concern that it isn't going to pass. I guess I'm sort of unsure about, I think that's real. I'm very worried that it won't pass. But I'm sort of unsure about whether that means that people think we shouldn't bring it forward. Because I feel like we have to bring it forward to say, this is the budget that would be appropriate. It's certainly not the dream budget.
No.
I guess I hear people saying, I'm concerned it's not going to pass, but I'm not really sure whether, I've not really heard anyone say, I don't know. I don't know if someone can help me out on what I'm trying to say. Is
No, I agree with you. I
am very worried that it may not pass, and I don't see any way to not bring this forward and bring it to the people to say, this is what I think, this is what we need.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, I have heard, again, very limited, but I did hear a couple of, you know, that it's too much, you've cut too much. So, I don't know. I'm feeling a little adrift. I really had hoped and dreamed for lots and lots and lots of people coming, giving all kinds of visions about the budget in the past 2 hearings.
Well, I think to maybe repeat like a phrase I said before, I think this should go forth as it is, as somewhat of a litmus test to see where the taxpayer is in saying that they want to support the schools, they want to support teachers, they want to support teacher retention, they want to support maintenance, and they want 3 elementary schools, by and large.
Yep.
This is what that budget accomplishes with minimal impacts to, you know, the delivery of our educational program. Yes, we are losing 7 FTEs, and I don't mean to make light of that, but I think Eric and Vinny have gone back and forth on this at our direction a number of times to try to find savings. And I think short of us saying the cuts need to total 2 million, 3 million, which we decided pretty early on in the process was too much, I think we have to put this budget forward, and to Vinny's point, see where the town warrants end up, and then, you know, weigh what the scenarios could be if the overrides do not pass. I don't think we should, it's hard to know how much time we should devote to spending on that. I think I'd almost rather spend my energy trying to encourage people to dive into the detail behind this budget request and to understand why they should really think about supporting the override if they can, as opposed to like, well, we did this, but we also have this other plan over here that we can just do. You know, because I don't think that is the right message either. I think this override supports a number of things in the community. I agree with Jen's comments that it's difficult when these things are positioned just for the schools, because as we've said many times in this meeting, everything that we choose to budget for is a choice, and I think that applies to the municipalities as well, and that there can be prioritization as communicated through, you know, the override that we want to maintain, you know, trash service, schools, public safety, all of the things that people expect, and that will require additional levy capacity this year. You know. So.
Can somebody remind me, the part of the budget that's under the levy limit, does that need a 2/3 majority, or is that a simple majority?
I think it's simple.
At town meeting.
Town meeting's a
Town
simple
meeting is
majority.
simple.
but above the levy limit is 2/3.
Not at town meeting. The
No, but at-
2/3 only applies to debt
Debt
exclusion.
exclusions.
But it also has to go
To the ballot.
To
Ballot.
the ballot. It also has to go to the ballot.
So
Two
if-
votes instead of 2/3.
Yeah, 2 votes. Right. And, yeah. And there's a lot of ifs. I mean, Vinny was sort of, somebody asked a great question that I've asked a whole bunch of times. What happens if this fails in one town and this, and like, there's just so many permutations of what could happen.
Yeah, I think Vinny's been good about being clear about, let's see what the numbers are and then strategize from there about how to approach that, because there are a lot of different scenarios and there's a lot of different ways to approach them, depending on what happens, both at the ballot and in the town meetings.
Okay. Other people have other discussion,
This is your opportunity.
questions?
Sure.
I mean, I speak only for myself. I feel like we've been well prepared.
This is the same number from last meeting, just minus
Right,
the
just-
158, which is a
Exactly.
total separate thing that happened.
Right? I'm gonna make sure everybody's ready. Can we see Julia?
Julia's there, yeah.
Ready?
You ready to vote? Yep.
Okay. All right, again, it has to be a roll call vote. Jen?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Anna's a yes. Julia?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Okay, and that is unanimous of the 5 members present, and the motion passes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Charlie, your work.
Appropriate to clap for you, I would, but
Thank you. Thank you for all of that work.
might seem like that was the hard part, but I think the hard part is now educating everyone
Yes,
and
it's the next agenda item.
so. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, as promised, when we had the question during the budget hearing, the next sort of step forward is to start talking about communication regarding the budget. There's a lot of information we still are, don't have because we need to talk about, and we need to hear from the towns and talk about what it's going to look like. And, well, I
I actually have a question.
Sure.
Let's say the part of the budget that's over the levy limit passes in Wenham,
Oh,
but it fails in Hamilton.
it fails.
Aren't
It
we then
fails.
in violation of the regional agreement?
It fails.
You would have the opportunity to reconvene and either vote in the levy budget, and then you have an approved budget, or you would have to
Bring back.
bring it back to whatever town failed it or not, and accept
Yeah,
the.
yes.
You're saying because it would be two different numbers.
Right.
Right. And I do think part of that is a question about how it would be structured. Like, could it be structured so that, these are questions I've been asking these, like, could it be structured so that, like, first the towns would pass the levy limit budget, then so that you'd actually have a budget passed in both towns, but it would have to we voted on this budget now. So if any different budget gets passed, it would have to come back here for approval here, or for this committee to choose to take any other action.
So if the piece of the budget that's over the levy limit fails in one town, it basically fails in both.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
It's
So
'cause
Wenham can't approve, or Hamilton can't approve the extra money, and, okay.
No. Right. And it's, yeah.
I just needed clarification on that.
And remember, if you go back to the committee comes back together and says, okay, we're going to reduce from, say, I'm just going to use the round number, 2 million down to 1 million, that still changes both numbers. So you're going to need a special in both places.
But ideally, you wouldn't have a situation in which one town or both towns didn't pass a budget at all. Like, that would be really not ideal, because then you wouldn't have a budget at all, so. Okay. So I don't really know how we want to structure this conversation about communication. I'm open to what the committee is looking for. I'm just going to offer my thoughts and say, in the past, when we've talked about this, what we've talked about is the sort of the one-pager that's been created. I will shout out to Amy, has done really nice work in the past creating that visually so that there's a one-page document that can be circulated ahead and then produced at town meeting. I want to give another shout out that when we, Eric and Vinny and I were we were going to talk with the 5 chairs meetings, and we were looking for input, and Kristen sent some, I will just say, some really helpful talking points that we shared with the other chairs and talked about. And those talking points were really about messaging moving forward and how to create sort of unified messaging to, and forgive me if I don't get the word, but basically to convey to the citizens of both communities that these budgets, which are, the two town budgets and the school budget, that these have been thoughtfully created to provide what is needed for the citizens. And that is a wide array of things. It's education, but it's also all the other things we just talked about, police and fire and DPW and trash collection and all of that. So that was a long-winded way of saying that I think we have some resources here on the committee of people that have excellent abilities to communicate. I'll stop talking, but I have thoughts about what moving forward, but we can't create something, we're not gonna be able to create a plan right now, but I think we should create, in the past, we've designated a committee member or two. So I'll stop. Thoughts?
I'm happy to make whatever visuals we need to help teach everyone about the budget. I don't know if this time around it would make sense to hold a couple of info sessions, either maybe partnering with other community groups, senior centers, friends groups, things like that. I'd definitely be willing to do a couple of those.
Well, and we did our liaisons earlier today. Right. It might make some sense to, to have, to whatever extent possible, to have people thinking about maybe going to some of those groups, that whatever groups you're a liaison to, or other people could do. I know in the past we've certainly gone to friends groups to present or ask, or just be there for questions.
Yep.
I don't know, is that the kind of thing you were thinking of, or you were thinking of?
Yes.
Yeah.
I also think it'd be helpful if we could to record one so that it could be shared for folks that can't make it to something like that. I think the organic questions that come out of things like that are important, rather than us just deciding, all of the information that needs to be shared. Answering questions from people is important too.
So, and I will say, as part of I can't remember whether that came up in the chairs, or was that in the quintuple board, where there was
Chairs meeting.
in the chairs. So I don't know if anyone had a chance to see it, but Hamilton at one point put out video about, it was not question and answer, it was just, I think it was just the chair of the Hamilton Select Board put out, or maybe it was a couple of people. Anyway, they put out a nice video about explaining the Gordon Conwell situation and the vote and explaining, and it was, I think, a little bit about what you were saying, it was just sort of informational, short, and it was something that people could share, like if it was kind of ahead of the Gordon Conwell vote, and people could share it and just say, like, are you wanting to know information about the Gordon? So I'm thinking it could be something like that, and
Yeah.
we did we talked a little bit about, was there an opportunity to do something like that jointly?
Yes, I was just going to say that.
You know, but I like the idea too of, I mean, maybe you do it somehow with questions, or I don't know how that works, but
You could ask people to provide them ahead of time, maybe.
yeah, provide questions.
Or just maybe use one of the events that we hold if it's, you know, not too long. Record that and then record like the question and answer part. But maybe
Yeah.
sending questions ahead of time is more.
Yeah, because I do think that a recording needs to be super concise.
Yeah, I
so that
agree.
people can, you know, I don't know how long the one on Gordon Conwell was, but it wasn't long, and I didn't, you know, it was quick, you could watch it, and you didn't,
Yeah.
you know, it was like,
I think before we produce something like that, I'd like to get a better sense of what questions people have too. So I think it, you know, we're so deep into this budget process, it's kind of hard to guess at what the
Yeah.
key points are.
and I'm not sure how to get those, because like I said, we haven't gotten, and I know Eric has, you know, alerted people in the newsletter that the budget is underway, and we haven't gotten a ton of feedback. It would be good to get.
Well, I'm happy to work with Amy on, like, you know, some of the messaging and things we could put out there, and to talk about how we could put together that kind of a video, or videos, maybe of like short, you know, FAQs or something like that. I do wonder how we distribute that, because I know we don't have our own like social media channel. And I'm not necessarily saying that we should, that could be a bigger discussion. But I just, if we can, how like, what is the best way of getting that
Yeah.
content
And
out there?
We could certainly ask the Hamilton Select Board what they did, how they, I mean,
Yeah,
how, you know, how they pushed it out.
yeah.
I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
I
We have
think-
school level socials. We can, I mean,
Yeah, that's
we
true.
can put it on the school level socials.
And it-
We have
yeah.
quite a pretty, I mean, one of
We have a
the
lot,
one of
yeah.
the things we've gotten with all the tension over the school project is a lot more people have signed up for the newsletter who are not school people, which is
That's
what
good.
we were trying to do. We were
Yep.
trying to get more people, so there are a little more people getting information rather than just the school people. So
Yep.
it's hopeful that way.
So I think this was helpful. I mean, so I guess what I'm wondering, I don't know if, do you have more?
I think we need to think and brainstorm a way to clearly communicate what happens if the part of the override budget doesn't pass.
And I do too, and I think that Vinnie was sort of indicating that part of what we need first is the towns to give us
I know.
more, but yes, then, yeah, I think,
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
we've never done it this way before,
Right.
so like,
right. No, it'll need to be clear about what's provided under the levy limit and what's provided over the levy, or in the override.
It might be good just have Kristen and Amy brainstorm and come to next meeting, that we'll have it on the agenda that, all right, here's the brainstorm, let's start the conversation. And that way we can do what we've done in the past, assign people things to do,
Yeah.
because then you'll have 4 meetings.
You'll have, yeah, and I think, other people can chime in, but I do think 2 people is a nice, because then you're a working group, you're not a subcommittee, you're not, just talk to each other,
Normally.
regular
like
people.
regular people.
So.
Yep.
And, yeah, I guess we should vote on that, but does that seem like something you two?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we usually like appoint,
Yeah, I mean,
or, I forget
I
how to
guess it
word
would be
that.
a working, I would say it's a working group, or we would just appoint you to come
Yeah.
back to us.
That's fine.
I don't even know if it's called a working group. I think we
working
would just
duo?
task you. I think the key would be to just task you
Okay.
with doing that, the two of you,
Okay.
rather than even calling it anything. I don't know if anyone has the motion to that effect, or if you want me to try to do it. Jen's got it, I can see.
I move that Amy Kuhnberger and Kristen Noon establish a working group to determine and implement the best communication practices to the people of Hamilton and Wenham before and during town meeting.
Second?
All right, I heard a second by Amy. Are we comfortable with working group? I'm not really, the reason I'm hesitating is I don't know whether working group
Like, is
has
it that
any-
formal?
Any legal
Right,
requirements?
Exactly, like,
Then maybe retract that motion and maybe make another one to say the school committee designates the two of us to,
Oh, designate is
Just
a
make
good
a friendly
word.
amendment.
yeah, just a friendly amendment. You can
Yeah, just friendly amendment.
okay.
to
I
Jen.
move to amend Jen's motion. Now we have two motions to act on.
No, you can, it's a friendly amendment, so you
Okay.
can just
Friendly
say to her.
Friendly amendment, okay. So just say maybe, I move that the school committee designates Amy and Kristen to develop a recommended communications plan for the school committee's budget and override, something to that nature.
And my second stands.
All right, yep, looks like that was accepted as a friendly amendment, and, okay.
Okay.
All right, any further discussion on that?
I just have questions. Should Eric be involved? And
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like I'm always involved.
the nice way that this is worked is that, yeah, you guys can
Yeah.
work with Eric.
Access to
you
Vinnie and
know,
I.
You
Yeah.
could consult with Vinnie, you can work with,
Definitely.
yes, and, well, I just wanted to put that out there. And also, in the boards meeting, the quintuple boards meeting, we talked about select board members and potentially FinCom members teaming up with school committee members to have this communication. So is this something they should be involved with? Do we just provide them with this communication? Should we reach out to some key members?
that's a great question. We did a little bit of that in the chairs meeting.
Chairs,
There was
yeah.
some discussion. I think because we go first, we're probably ahead, just because we go first. So I think it could be, open and, like, the more we can share, the better. Like, if we can share it with them as we, but we can ask whether they have a designated person that they want, or whether it's just, but yeah, I don't think it could hurt to run things by them and,
Okay.
I think that, perfect opportunity for liaisons.
yeah.
Right, yeah.
You guys bring it forward to say, okay, here are the suggestions. All right, this looks like a good suggestion to invite some select board members or FinCom members to do a video or whatever, then you can just, as a liaison, reach out
Right.
and make that connection.
Right. I mean, I think, I was going to say, it's perfect, because you're I just looked it up, you're the
Select board,
Hamilton
yes.
Select Board, and you're the Wenham
I'm now
Select
Wenham,
Board.
and Wenham FinCom.
And you're, and I'm actually Hamilton FinCom, but,
In the CPAC.
Yeah,
Negotiations.
whatever. We're electing new people soon.
Setting records.
yeah, it'll all get reshuffled in
Yeah.
April. Okay. Did we vote?
No.
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 It's left to vote.
All right, and is Julia?
Julia's off. Yep.
She's gone, okay. All right, Kristen?
Yes.
Dana's yes, Amy?
Yes.
And is,
Yes.
yes, and that is unanimous of the 4 members present, which is enough for this, but would not have been for the
For the budget, yeah.
So, excellent. Thank you all, both of you. All right, next up, committee reports. Capital Finance.
We did not meet. We had too many people out of town, so we're going to reschedule for sometime after February vacation.
Okay. And it sounds like you guys have a lot on your plate.
We really do need to meet.
Yeah, you do. Okay. And do you meet on Zoom or in person?
In person.
Yeah.
But I'd be fine swapping.
We've been hybrid,
Yeah.
we've been hybrid because one member's had to come in on Zoom, so.
Yeah, I mean, we've
No, I'm just.
done
I
it
was-
hybrid.
It wasn't a criticism, it was just a curiosity about. Okay, thank you. Policy?
We have a meeting scheduled for March 16th with no agenda yet.
Okay. And you had something that didn't make it didn't make it on this agenda. is
Right.
that
That was my fault.
That wasn't my fault.
Well, I reviewed in reviewing the agenda this morning, I realized that under policy, I didn't bring one of the policies that they approved. It was actually an update, so we're fine.
Yeah.
It was an annual update. There'll be a couple more coming as well.
All right. Well,
They'll still go to the committee.
full disclosure, Eric and I already, he told me he forgot that, and I did not add an executive session on today either, which I was supposed to do, but I did already add it to our next meeting.
It was a big agenda.
Yes. And you guys I'm sorry, you're meeting when? Policy?
I'm sorry. March
think you just said it.
16th at 2:30. In a month.
Okay. Negotiations, we met this afternoon. We're continuing to negotiate with the ESP union. We met this afternoon. We're moving along. And we'll have some updates for you guys in executive session at the next meeting. And my apologies for not putting that on this one. And our next meeting is on 26th. And yeah, everyone is working, both the association and we are working hard to be collaborative, and negotiations, when you do them sort of thoughtfully and methodically, are not quick. So there we go. Anybody have any questions about that? Okay, our secretary is not here, so we will look for a secretary report soon, but we are, I think in general, doing a better job at keeping up, and we're in better shape in terms of minutes. And I would just remind everybody on your subcommittees that right after your meeting, you can go ahead and submit a draft to Janelle of the minutes. Always better to have a draft that at least is waiting there with Janelle. You know, a quick draft is better than nothing.
Yeah, she said she would format
Yep,
them, so
she's-
if
yep.
that's what's holding you up.
If that's, exactly, if formatting
Somewhere.
is holding you up, then worry not, send it right over to Janelle. Okay, Amy, do you have anything in our inboxes?
Inbox has been very quiet.
It has been quiet. Okay. All right, I think I have exhausted everything I wanted to say, I think, already. I don't have more to say on the chair's report, unless anyone has questions for me. Okay. Topics for future meetings.
I do have to do a 26 forecast. Hopefully I'll have it on the next.
Okay. The year end.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
That policy
And the
one.
forgotten policy.
I know, poor policy. Find the,
That's a first reading, or that's something that you guys have already reviewed?
that is a first reading for this group.
Yeah, but you guys have reviewed, but
We've
yeah,
done our
okay.
first reading, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anybody have anything else?
Nope.
No.
Would entertain a motion if someone has one.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Jen. Discussion?
No discussion.
All those in favor? We're, nobody on remote. And
Yes.
that is unanimous
9:09
at
PM.
9:09 PM, and we are adjourned.
Yes.